What would y'all's nickname, your Western cowboy nickname be?
Well, what's yours first? Start us off though.
I think I probably Squinty or
Squinty,
something.
because you're
Squinty.
Yeah,
yeah.
because I laugh or like my eyes just squint. Yeah.
I
Or
I th-
Dimples. Maybe they call me Dimples
I
or something.
think for me,
Dimples.
I'm so blind and glasses weren't that good. I'd probably be Blind Kim or Shaky Hands because
Shaky
I have very
Hands.
unsteady hands.
So
That's
Slick's the
low-hanging
obvious
fruit
one.
Yeah.
Also, just the Klutz.
Oh my god, we gotta go rob something now.
Oh,
We're going. Let's go to the bank. Welcome back to the big room, where we watched another old movie. We watched The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly this week. A lot of not me and Carl, Nick's first Western. Nick, what'd you think of your first Western?
Dude, I freaking love this movie. I underestimated how many references I was going to get.
Okay.
And I don't know. There was a lot of scenes and a lot of the music, I don't know, man. There was just a lot that you see in current movies that I didn't think I'd pick up on.
Sergio Leone movie. This movie is the third movie in the Dollars trilogy, or the Man with No Name trilogy, which is what I've heard it referred to as more often. The first being For a Fistful of Dollars, and then the second being For a Few Dollars More, and the third being this movie. In this movie, it stars Clint Eastwood. All three star Clint Eastwood. In a nameless protagonist, although he has a name every time. I don't remember
And they're
what
different too, right?
I don't remember what the names are in the first two. Yeah, Manco is For a Few Dollars More. He's called Manco, and in the first one, I believe he's called Joe. So Joe, Manco, and then in this one, he's Blondie. Which, by the way, brown hair for a guy named Blondie.
Yeah. They're kind of liberal with the descriptions there.
I think Angel Eyes says at one point this guy's got an angel with golden hair, and I'm like, no, he doesn't.
Yeah.
He doesn't have golden hair at all. His hair's
Maybe
not golden.
Maybe compared to everyone else, you know.
I guess
It was lighter.
Yeah. So these are in this trilogy started the spaghetti western genre. From what I understand, I think, and I've done no research, but I think that the westerns in America had kind of like run their course. From what I remember, Nick, do you know more than me?
I mean, a little bit. I was looking up the difference between spaghetti westerns versus your typical Hollywood westerns. And it's just spaghetti westerns are a little grittier than what was shown in America or in Hollywood, I guess. Whereas in Hollywood westerns, that would be very clean cut and to the point. So like if the main character shot someone, it was like a resolution, like the good guy won over the bad. Versus in spaghetti westerns, there's not necessarily good heroes. There's anti-heroes. So they're not necessarily a good person.
More of your clean cut John Wayne.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Bonanza.
Okay. That makes sense. So and they're called spaghetti westerns because they were shot in Italy. And this trilogy of movies kicked that off. Directed by Sergio Leone. All three of them. And then we've got Clint Eastwood, like I mentioned before, stars in all three. And then Lee Van Cleef actually stars in two of them. Nick, you've not. Has anybody else seen any others in the Dollars trilogy, or is it just me?
No, I heard a little bit about it doing research on this one, but yeah, it's not. Haven't seen them.
Gotcha. So for me, the reason this one was in the list and not the other two was I'd seen the other two. Simple as that. I went on a Western kick in 2021, 2 years ago. And I don't know why. I think I bought this hat and was like, I'm a cowboy boy. So I had to watch movies. And I had seen a little bit of Fistful of Dollars before. No, I'd seen a little bit of For a Few Dollars More before. And I just hadn't seen the third one and wanted to round out the trilogy, since this is considered the quintessential spaghetti western film.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, everything I'd seen pointed that this latest one was the best of all three and, like, the more masterful work. Is that true, you think, or?
Well, I heard it was the best of, like, any Western period.
Well, yeah, that too.
It was the Citizen Kane of Westerns, if you will.
You two have not seen the other two. I will say that for my money, this may be a hot take. And I don't know. I'm going to go ahead with it. I'm going to say that for my money, I liked the endings of the other two films more.
Really?
I liked the endings specifically more than this.
Wait, you haven't seen the other two, right, Carl?
No, yeah, he
Yeah,
hasn't.
but this ending is like one of the best in
You were so
cinema
shocked
history.
at that.
Well, because this
As if
ending
you had
was
seen the other two.
fantastic. Yeah,
No,
but
Yeah.
It was good.
this ending is iconic. So
But-
it's for the other two to be, for him to like more is
The
strange.
ending, particularly of For a Few Dollars More, I liked more than this ending. It was a little more dramatic, maybe. Although, you know, the gunfight, the standoff between the three isn't
Yeah, it's
not
pretty dramatic.
It's not dramatic, but
Yeah.
the plot of one of the main plot points behind For a Few Dollars More is pretty heavy. And it the way it resolves and the insight you get into who Lee Van Cleef's character is at the end of that movie is very good. And Lee Van Cleef in For a Few Dollars More plays a protagonist alongside Eastwood. So that's Angel Eyes.
Which one's that?
Angel Eyes.
Yeah.
So the guy with the stash that
Yep.
yeah, spoilers, dies in the end.
Hard to imagine him as a good guy. He's just got such a villainous look.
He's a good guy in the second one. And actually, when he showed up on screen in the beginning of this movie, I paused it and went, have I seen this? Because he looks the same. He looks the same. He does play a villain, I think, a little. I like him more as a villain. But his gun in particular.
He just has the look.
His gun in For a Few Dollars More is so sick. He's got like a carbine, he's got like a revolver, but he attaches a stock to it, and it's the freaking coolest.
Ooh.
So
I've heard some rumors that the Good, the Bad, the Ugly is actually a prequel to the other two because he doesn't get like the other movies. He starts with that iconic outfit with the poncho, and then this one he doesn't. He like gets it at the end. I don't know if that's just happenstance or whatever, but that's just a rumor I heard. So I don't know if anybody can confirm.
Yeah, the director shot down the idea that they were all connected, like at all.
Gotcha.
But there's some, and again, I haven't seen the other two, but it seems like there's a lot that connects them.
Really, there's nothing stopping you from thinking, if you want to like headcanonize it, there's nothing stopping you from thinking that particularly Clint Eastwood's character is the same character in all three movies, and it's the same guy. But it's just like he's in three different towns and he's in three different stories, and what an adventurous life this guy has or whatever. But no,
But it's definitely not the same for the other characters.
No, like especially
they're definitely playing other characters,
right? And especially since he brought Lee Van Cleef back in a completely different role in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. That makes it a little harder to think that these exist in the same timeline, I guess. But yeah, I think there's like the poncho
I've watched
thing.
enough American Horror Story to be able to get behind it.
The poncho thing and the fact that I think in this movie, and this is way too nitpicky, I think in this movie particularly Clint Eastwood's revolver is the oldest revolver he has out of any of the three, like historically. But
yeah,
the guns,
this one had the Civil War and the other ones don't, or something like that. So and like the railroad, there was some other kind of technical stuff, but I was like, I don't know my history well enough to validate.
The guns were
based on that.
something. As a very, very like, I'm not a big gun guy, but I like them a bit. The gun porn in this movie was pretty neat, and it's that way for all of them. You know, just the breaking down and the building and the reloading and the cleaning and stuff. You don't get that in a lot of other movies.
I was wondering about that scene when he's getting that revolver, Tuco. I was like, can you actually mix and match like pieces like that, or is that
I don't know.
Like breaking?
I don't know about back in the day, but I think now you would blow up.
Yeah, I think back then maybe. Like today, it seems like everyth's a little bit more specialized.
He does mention that he's got like two Smiths or whatever he said, like whatever the manufacturer was. He had a couple that gun guy, the whatever, the general store owner, had a couple of the same revolver, but then he takes 3 guns apart. I don't know. Maybe he had 3, and he was just trying to take the best cylinder and the best barrel and the best body of the 3 and make the perfect gun, and then click it and go, you hear that? While I'm like, no.
Yeah, I was like, it sounds the same. Yeah.
So speaking of sound, this is one thing that I noticed with these movies. Well, there's a couple things to talk about with sound with these films. First and foremost, that the voices don't match the mouths for and that is worse in the first one. In the first one, not even Clint Eastwood is really close from what I remember in his dialogue in the first movies, because I guess of a couple reasons. For one, they're shot in Italy, so not all the actors spoke English, so especially more minor characters like ruffians and gang members that are just there to get shot in 10 minutes, their voices, like, you can just tell they're not speaking English, so they'll like move their mouths, or some of them stop moving their mouths like way too early and the English lines just keep going.
There were a couple scenes where, because I watched with headphones, and it would go, I was hearing him talk in both ears, and then
that happened to me too.
And then when they would go off screen, so you weren't seeing the character but you're still hearing them, it would go only to my right or only to my left. I'm wondering if that's just how they chopped it up, maybe.
Yeah, that was driving me crazy because I thought my headset was just disconnecting, and I was like, "What is going on?" But it immediately picked back up in both, and I'm like, "I don't know."
Well,
whatever.
The bigger problem is I can't hear well out of my right ear, so that was kind of a nightmare.
So you had that experience, if you listen to the Beatles remastered albums that aren't mono, you'll have like singing in one ear and like all of the instruments and sitars and whatever else.
Yep.
They're doing in the right. It's the worst. But the other thing that drives me, that's an easy enough thing to look past, at least for me. The voice is not matching.
I didn't really notice half the time. I was like, this is not really.
Well, you get sucked in, you don't care anymore.
To be, yeah.
But like, you start
when it
paying
really
attention
seemed like
to
he was
other
off
things.
sync.
Yeah,
true.
The thing that did drive me crazy though, and this was particularly in the scene where we're introduced to Angel Eyes, and he walks in on that war vet or whatever who he's been hired to kill, and the dude's like eating with his family. The Foley in that scene is pretty bad. And Foley is the like added sound effects in post, so like footsteps, and the eating noises and all the gun clicking. That's all Foley work. So there are Foley artists who walk on. They've got shoes on their hands and they're walking on different ground textures and crunching vegetables with their hand to make eating sounds and stuff. Like that's still totally a thing that happens today. But it was just like, there would be some crunches of food that sounded just whack. And then, he'd chew and you'd hear it twice, but then for the next 10 chews, it was non-existent sound. There was no sound. I don't know. That the Foley work in this movie left something to be desired. And what puzzles me about it is we've seen movies from the 40s and they're fine. And this movie is from the 60s.
This felt way older than 60s.
Way older.
I was thinking like these guys 20 years before they shot this were watching my least favorite movie of all time, Casablanca.
We're watching Citizen Kane.
Yeah. And it feels like this should take place, and maybe it's like the setting of the movie or the time frame of the movie. Maybe it's, I don't know when it's supposed to take place. But like it feels way older than
the setting's the 1860s, I think, because we're set around the Civil War. I think Carl said 1862 earlier.
Oh yeah.
I think that's what I saw.
Maybe that's why it felt older, but yeah, it definitely felt older.
It had to be
60s,
budgetary, or I don't know. I wish I was informed.
It was shot entirely in Italy?
Yeah, they're all shot entirely.
Because parts of it, I was like, this looks like Nevada. I didn't know there was places like in Italy that looked like that.
And I wonder if they were shot in Italy on a budget because Hollywood was Westerns just weren't working anymore. So maybe they just didn't have the backing, and that's why some of the stuff is a little off. And maybe they didn't use Foley in the 40s. I don't know. Maybe they might like did everything with microphones on set, and Foley was a new thing in the 60s. Again, podcast by idiots. We have no idea what's happening. So, but what I did love though is I think we all rented this movie on an internet, and because of that, I think we all watched 4K remastered versions of this film. What I love is that real film grain.
Oh yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
I could look
This is a
at
great movie, and it gets all the like grimy details, all the dirt and sweat on their faces are so crisp and just like it
it's
really
just
puts you in there.
funny.
You feel the heat of the sun, and it's like it really holds up.
It's just
Yeah,
funny
thank God
how
for
like
film.
grain is like attributed with crappiness now, in the digital world. Like
Hmm.
when you have grain, it's looking terrible, but man, when it was real film grain, it looks so good.
Yeah,
So good.
you can't beat that.
I love that. I think I can't remember if it's Danielle or Nick that had a gripe about pre-roll credits. I like the pre-roll credits in older movies like this.
They're so
Oh,
long,
yeah.
man.
They're long, but it gave me time to go, get a drink and sit down, and I'm still listening
Do
to
that
music.
before
and,
the movie.
Well, but I don't. I did it most of it before the movie, and I'm like, oh, there's pre-roll credits. I can go turn the fan on and turn this lamp off and whatever. I like it. It gives me time to kind of sat down and settled and ready to watch a movie before I have to.
Yeah, it put me in the mindset. Like I was,
Yeah,
as
that's
soon as
fair.
that happened, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to immediately go watch the community paintball episode after this because it was like
man.
just exactly like a parody.
Well, and aren't those
of it, so-
aren't those named after these movies? Is
Oh,
it
yeah,
one of
they
them
are.
called like for a few paintballs more?
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my god, that's great.
Yeah, so they're
Yeah.
based off of this
Yeah.
stuff. So anyway, we've got I'll go over slight plot points. I mean, we've got Clint Eastwood's character named Blondie, and he's the good, right? So each title in the movie, or each, I guess, part of the title, the good, the bad, and the ugly, represents one character from the movie. The good is Clint Eastwood, who we meet last. We meet Ugly first, and that's Tuco. He's the ugly, and he's escaping from a bounty, which he does all the time. But he's not escaping with Clint Eastwood for this part. And then we've got the bad, which is Angel Eyes, which is Lee Van Cleef's character is Angel Eyes. Again, he's a villain in this movie and a protagonist in the previous. So we meet them in pretty much reverse order, right? I guess we see Tuco first, but he's just like crashing through a window and running away.
yeah, it's like a real brief intro,
Or did we get
and then it kind of cuts.
Did we get to
Yeah,
Angel Eyes?
I think
it might be
it does that kind
ugly,
of
bad, good.
Yeah,
But
ugly,
in
bad, good.
the Italian version, it is the good, the ugly, and the bad in Italian.
The title?
Yeah.
Oh, huh.
I don't know. I guess.
Why?
Well,
Maybe
maybe
it has more of a ring in Italian,
maybe,
but
exactly. Maybe in
Oh,
Italy, it's
yeah.
more sing-songy in that language than in ours. But if you look
Yeah.
at old Italian posters, they have them listed as Eastwood, Van Cleef, and Eli Wallach as the good, the ugly, and the bad, or rather Eli Wallach and Lee Van Cleef.
Well, to make
that's-
things even more confusing, when they released the trailer in the U.S., they accidentally labeled the good guy, or sorry, the bad.
Lee Van Cleef.
What is
Angel Eyes.
What is his
Angel
name?
Eyes?
Angel Eyes. Thank you. Jeez. They labeled Angel Eyes as the ugly and Tuco as the bad,
That doesn't
which just
quite
threw
work.
everyone off. Yeah,
Yeah. So
they're all over the place, man.
to give
yeah,
an
sloppy.
overview of the characters, I guess. Clint Eastwood's great as he is. He's a little. Well, he's always like. He always plays a good guy in the movies, but like a not lawful good, right? If that makes sense. In
Yeah,
like
it's
D&D
kind of like
100%.
neutral good or like whatever. I don't even know the classifications.
he might
but
even
whatever
be chaotic good though.
Chaotic good is no, that's lawful. Yeah, well, I don't know the distinction. I've never
Yeah,
figured that out. I don't know.
I know what
chaotic
you guys
versus
are doing.
neutral.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know the format. I don't know what they mean.
Because we learn that he's like a chaos agent, helping. So Tuco's wanted, and he keeps rescuing Tuco, but turning him in. And then as Tuco's being hung, he like claims the bounty money and then just shoots Tuco free. They run off, his bounty goes up, and they do it again and split the money 50-50. That's like their arrangement. And I guess he gets tired of the arrangement and abandons Tuco in the desert.
He says you're not going to be worth more than $3,000, which is like
Yeah.
the third time.
Yeah, it's the
It's just
third
not
time.
cost
So he's like,
effective
all right, well,
anymore.
Well, it's
I'm
the
done
third
with
time
you,
that
be
we
gone.
see, right?
Yeah, true.
So then he's like leaves him.
Sometimes it's done to get into that number.
Yeah. Leaves him in the desert, but Tuco walks to a town, and then that's when we get the scene we were talking about where Tuco goes to a general store and starts messing with guns and stuff, which is pretty cool. And then he captures Clint Eastwood as Clint Eastwood is doing the same thing to a different guy he's got another arrangement with.
Yeah.
Was it Shorty was his name?
Yep.
And then poor Shorty gets hung.
Rest in peace.
Because Tuco puts a gun in Clint Eastwood's ear right as he's about to shoot Shorty down. And then he's like, sorry, Shorty, as he gets let off. Super good. And then that's when we get to the, like, I guess I feel like we're misusing or overusing MacGuffin, but we get to the main thing that moves the plot along, which is Tuco.
I think it's a MacGuffin.
Yeah, Tuco parades Blondie, Clint Eastwood, through the desert, just like what happened to him in reverse, but way further out with full on intention of killing him. Like shoots his water jug, starts drinking water, washing his feet in water to torture him. And then he comes across what I learned was like the Civil War version of an ambulance in the desert that's just like tearing ass through the desert. It's just a 4-horse drawn carriage. Tuco stops it, and it's full of dead people, which is gross. And he steals some stuff off of them, steals some snuff, steals some watches and whatnot, jewelry. And then one of them has he had like the snuff pouch, and I forget that dude's name. It was because Tuco
Bill Carson?
Bill Carson. And we know that name from earlier in the introduction to Angel Eyes. He's hunting a guy named Bill Carson because Bill Carson has buried $200,000 of Confederate gold somewhere, and only he knows where. I
was a little confused about the origin of the money. Like, I'm sure I missed it in the dialogue, but can anybody clarify for me? Because I'm a little squee-wow on that.
I think it was Confederate gold that was supposed to be used for something in the war and just was misappropriated and stolen. I can't remember, though.
Gotcha.
Honestly, never even cared to think about that till this moment.
Yeah, because it doesn't kind of matter. There's buried treasure.
Because it's a lot of money. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Right.
nobody, like, yeah. So,
Or it just seems like, yeah, it's
4,000 was a lot of money back then. So 200,000 was like, what, millions today or something?
Oh, tons and tons and tons.
So,
and
yeah,
tons.
so it's a lot of money for us. Like, so where did this come from? And then, like, how did he get a hold of it? How do you acquire it? And since, like, I don't know, I was kind of fuzzy on that. And I didn't even realize the guy in the beginning that when we meet Angel Eyes was like an ex-soldier. I just thought he was a farmer.
I guess
I was like, I don't know if I'm just supposed to assume some of the stuff or if it made sense when it came out and just I'm too far removed from it.
I think we were supposed to assume that maybe retroactively because he was missing a limb, but we're not aware at that point that it's Civil War set. But one of the biggest losses in the Civil War was limbs because of all the cannonballs and round ball, like 50 caliber ball shot that just took your whole leg off essentially.
Good Lord.
And that's right around the time we had the technology to amputate without killing people. By we chloroformed them instead and then ripped their legs off. That's where the first, not the first prosthetics. The Egyptians had the first prosthetics. Who cares? Anyway, we got this Confederate gold.
Cameron knows a lot about this.
I know a little bit about everything. But not all of the facts, so I'm just mostly wrong about a lot of things. So we've got the Confederate gold, and it's this guy. He knows where it's buried, right? But he doesn't tell him. He tells Tuco, the gold is in this cemetery, which is
Sad Hill.
Yeah, Sad Hill,
I think.
But then he runs off. The dude starts croaking because he's been wounded from battle. And now he's in the desert for God knows how long. They actually reference a couple times how far away the desert where they're at is from the Union and the Confederacy and the town. Like they're just in this middle of this Bermuda Triangle of horrible. And he starts croaking. So Tuco goes off to get him water. But while he gets him water, Clint Eastwood, who we had, I guess, almost assumed was dead at this point, Blondie.
He's kind of just out of the picture at this point.
Yeah, he crawls up to the wagon and gets the name of the grave marker, the name on the tombstone. So we've got this duality of Tuco's got the location, but Blondie's got the name. So they again have to form a troubled partnership, which full of more backstabbings on both sides, but largely from Tuco, which is why he's the ugly, because he's an ugly person, I guess.
He's got an ugly personality.
He does.
Yeah. Is it worse to be bad or ugly?
Oh, probably.
Maybe that's a question for the end and a question
Ugly.
we can pose to the.
I guess. I guess the follow up question is what does worse mean? You know?
Mm.
Is it worse to be bad or ugly? I mean, I don't know. Both can be off-putting to others around you.
I mean, they're all pretty morally gray, but I mean, I guess Angel Eyes is more. He's worse because he
However-
just kills in cold blood. Like he shot the guy through the pillow and all that.
Well, I guess Angel Eyes weasels his way into the Union. He's not, but he's.
I was wondering how he got that gig.
I don't know, connections.
Yeah, must be.
Or just smooth talking. I mean, in the same way that maybe Tuco and Blondie get into the Union later. At the bridge.
Just shows up.
They start off in Confederate clothes, and that scene's really funny when they steal the ambulance. After Clint Eastwood had gotten fixed up? It had to have been.
Yeah, they just left the monastery, and after Tuco met his brother.
Yeah, which was
yeah.
I guess if they gave us that to move Tuco's character development along a little bit. This movie's long.
Yeah, and then really long movie. I thought it was 2 hours long. When it was 3 hours long, I was like, oh boy.
I guess there are two cuts, and we all watched the longer one because it's just what was out there. But it's funny. Carl was talking about making the outline last night or this morning, and I was like, man, it's funny. Like 5 to 7 things happen in this movie, but they all happen forever. It's like, man, we've only got we've got 3 characters. That's it. We've really only got 3 characters that matter. Yeah. And it's just, man, it takes a long time to develop anything in this movie.
Yeah, at that point where you're talking about when he gets the one side of the information and then Clint Eastwood's character gets the name, that's where the story really starts. And that's like I had a note, like when I was watching this, I was like, this could have been like a 6-part series. Like they could have broke this up into like multiple episodes because there's so many turns and there's little tiny stories within the story, kind of like Pulp Fiction had 3 stories within it.
Right.
This felt like it had like 4 or 5 little stories and it could have been like serialized or something.
Right, because
it's kind of cool to cut off that and see.
It was like every 30 minutes, it was something completely different, and you had no idea what you were getting next.
Some new location, some new thing they had to do. Like the bridge was a whole different episode. Like it really could have been broken into a bunch of different little stories.
That could have been probably 6 or so 20-minute episodes. You're right, but it's I mean that's an interesting way of looking at it.
It's a very 2023 way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, everything's a mini series.
Easier to digest if it was broken up into little stories. But yeah, I was like, 3 hours is a long movie.
There were some parts of it where I was like, this is getting a little gratuitous and a little long-winded, like the Tuco in the desert with Blondie scene. I'm like, man, they could wrap this up,
They were not afraid to drag out a scene.
Yeah, they weren't, and I appreciate that though about older films in the modern age of,
I just didn't expect it. I think I expected a faster paced, more Western cowboy shoot 'em up kind of movie. I don't think I expected the Civil War to play nearly as much of an impact to the story as it did. Right. I don't think I expected like as many turns as it took. I think I expected more of a straightforward story. And then when I saw the time, I was like, well, there's no way they can make it straightforward and 3 hours long.
The Westerns you've seen, have they all been more modern, like 90s, 2000s, 2010s?
More modern. Like I've seen like the newer True Grit with like Josh Brolin. I've seen like Tombstone. That really kind of ends for my... I haven't really seen too many Westerns, so...
Gotcha.
I didn't really know what to expect going into it.
Count?
I've never seen it. I don't know. The only Westerns I've seen are Eastwood Westerns. I've seen, obviously, all 3 of these movies. And then, I think The Outlaw Josie Wells, if that's what that movie's called. The one with the train in it, I think. I don't remember, but yeah. So I'm not well versed in Westerns either by any means, but all the ones I've seen are from the 60s. So the pacing was as I expected, but much longer in this movie. I don't think that the other 2 are this long.
I didn't expect them to use silence as much as they did.
Yeah, nobody
not
talked.
Necessarily silence, or just
like
not
the first
talking.
10 minutes or the movie. There's really no
the
dialogue.
First 11 minutes of the movie. And then there was a couple scenes where it was like, I made note of a couple. Yeah. So obviously the last standoff, we'll get there. The last standoff, I had like anxiety waiting for something to happen.
Such a good scene.
But we get that montage of Tuco trying to track down Blondie, and he goes and we see him stopping by all the campfires and like,
picking up the cigar butts. Yeah.
And then he keeps doing it and there's no smoke, doing it, there's no smoke. And then the last one we see him, he takes a puff and he's got smoke coming out.
Still lit.
Yeah.
You can like see it in his eyes. He's like, all right, I'm close, whatever. Like, but we get no dialogue at all during that. And it's a good chunk of the movie, but they're still
like that though,
telling the
because
story.
It moves along in just with other narrative. Like it lets you know exactly what he's doing just because he's picking up those cigar ends. And that's great. And
you can see it on his face when he knows, and it clicks that he's like, I'm close because this is still warm. Like, you don't need they don't waste, they don't like tell you stuff that you can figure out on your own with the context clues.
Well, and they also they
nice.
earn that though, because they show you, even if you hadn't seen the other two, which you guys hadn't, know
this is a show don't tell movie.
Yeah, you know at that point though that Clint Eastwood smokes 100,000 cigars because he's offered them to people. You've just seen them, so they don't have to tell you, I'm hunting down Blondie, because you know what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that about that story.
That's what was really fascinating to me, though, was before, like, obviously this is my first Western. I'd never seen it before, but going in, I had an idea of who I thought Clint Eastwood's character was, and it was a correct idea.
Oh, really?
Like, I knew it was
what
like...
What do you mean by that?
Well, I expect, for whatever reason, and I think it's because... it's just this movie being referenced in pop culture so much, or in movies or shows, whatever. Like, I expected him to be that no nonsense, like kind of smug gunslinger who loved cigarettes or loved cigars. Like, I don't know. What I expected him to be turned out to be exactly who his character was.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things about his character too is that he doesn't talk very much. He's one of the least talking characters in any of the three movies, but when he talks, he's like the smartest guy. Like he's 5 steps ahead of everybody else, and I really like protagonists like that.
I literally was going to say, I wrote down he's 5 steps ahead of everyone. Like he's always thinking, he's always
chess. Everyone else is playing checkers.
Exactly, and I really love that about but the other thing is too, it's not like. And this is a phenomenon that you see like when you compare these older movies to newer things, and I've heard this elsewhere, and I don't remember from where. Maybe it's complete baloney, but this is true of Harrison Ford in the Indiana Jones films too. He gets the crap beat out of him, like he loses a lot.
Yeah,
and I think I heard it talked about in it was not to put The Rock down, but in a reference to Dwayne The Rock Johnson, like he has it in his contract that he's not. You cannot have The Rock have the snot beat out of him in movies. Like The Rock always has to look like the strongest alpha, and he can never lose.
Yeah, this unbeatable character
that makes for weaker protagonists.
Yeah,
because you don't get to you don't go through the full spectrum. I guess they do it more emotionally these days than physically. I guess John Wick's dog or whatever. But I want to.
It's just a less relatable hero,
right?
Like
I like watching Indiana Jones get the crap beat out of him. It's the best. I don't know, but
they're not heroes because they never lose. They're because they get back up. That's the reason
exactly.
we like them.
Tuco.
That's just the kind of. Yeah, go ahead.
Tuco. There's multiple times where Tuco almost kills Blondie. Like he's almost successful. In the desert, he has the gun to his head right before the horses show up on the wagon or whatever. When he
got the
convinces
in the hotel.
Yeah, in the hotel, he has a noose around his neck, about ready to get the chair or whatever.
The window thing, like that, he comes in through the window.
Bomb comes in.
Yeah, he comes in through the window there.
2 kinds of spurs, my friend.
And that's one point where you're like, oh wait, Tuco's also got tricks.
Yeah,
he's also really smart. Yeah. He's like,
I put that when he put the revolver together. I was like, okay, he's not an idiot. Like he knows what he's doing. He knows how to track. He knows how to build. He's he's knowledgeable in the guns, so he's not like this fool. He's just kind of bumbling a little bit.
We've got 3 pretty well, I mean, Tuco gets himself in the most trouble the whole time. He gets captured and
but that's the ugly part of him.
He has to escape. The way he escapes
that's what makes him ugly.
The way he escapes the Union train after him and Blondie get captured.
Yeah.
When they think that they're riding towards Confederate soldiers, but it's just dusty, desert dusty Union guys who just brush off their blood. I forget Blondie's line there.
God hates idiots too.
God hates us too because we're idiots or something
Yeah.
He had a lot of good one-liners towards Tuco, I thought.
Yeah, and man, it's so good.
There's one where Angel Eyes wrote him a note. It was later when they kind of picked off his posse. He's like, it says, "See you later, idiots. It's for you."
See you soon, idiot.
Something like that.
Idiots.
You can't even read it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's for you.
Man, it's so good. I really enjoyed it. Is this the longest movie we watched? We had another one go over the 3-hour mark. I don't think so.
I think this
Not
is
over
the
the
longest on
3-hour.
the list.
Gangs was like 2:30 or something like that.
No, because
And that felt longer.
we've got Gone with the Wind, Nick. That's 4
Oh, boy.
hours.
Oh my god.
That's a 4-hour movie. As my dad says, get a snack. That's a 4-hour movie.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need an intermission for that.
Do one. Set a 2-hour timer. That's definitely one we're gonna want to watch on a Saturday, not a Tuesday night right before we do the show.
I probably won't watch that one multiple times unless I just really happen to love it.
I felt I had an interesting feeling during this movie in that I felt that it was long, but not. I didn't love that it was long. Like I was aware. It's not like Pulp Fiction where it just breezed by right and the movie was over.
Right.
This movie felt really long, but I was really interested the whole time. I was engaged the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And the scenes they dragged out needed to be dragged out. Like when Blondie was being dragged through the desert, we had to suffer through that with him, and that put us in his shoes. And then the same when like Tuco's running through the cemetery trying to find it. It's like it had to show the scale of the cemetery. So it's like they had to be long, but yeah, you could feel the length of this movie.
The bridge scene where they're planting the TNT on the bridge. Like that was just
So, okay, someone explain that to me. Why did they care to blow that bridge up?
So from what they said is that the Union captain, the Union captain wanted to blow it up. And he said he had dreams of blowing it up and he even had a plan of how he would like to blow it up. But the higher command would have court-martialed him if he had blown it up. Meaning that I guess it was deemed enough as an asset to both sides to where neither side wanted to destroy it, but they would have rather fought over it. So normally when you're blowing bridges up, you're preventing like someone from getting to you.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I guess the Union wanted to go across as much as the Confederacy did to the point where Union command was like, you do not blow this bridge up, we're fighting for it. So in the one of the lines that the captain says right before is like, think of the thousands of men I could save if this bridge was gone. So he's thinking of his soldiers and is furious that
which everything he was saying before that made it seem like he could care less, but
right.
Well, that's
maybe he was just had a few more drinks and was revealing his true colors. I actually do care.
or just his alcoholism was a severe PTSD induced coping mechanism, and we see that on the Confederate side earlier in the movie when Angel Eyes is in the Confederate camp looking for what's the dude's name?
Bill
Carson. Previously Jackson, I think.
Previously many names. So
yeah.
Side note about that bridge that I thought was hysterical. They constructed it for the movie, and it was a life-size bridge, and they blew it up like at scale, like it was a real explosion.
Yeah.
Whatever. The first time they did it, it destroyed all the cameras that were filming it.
Oh my god!
It destroyed like 3 cameras. So they reconstructed an entire like full-size bridge just to blow it up again.
So did you
That's
see?
crazy.
Hysterical.
Did y'all see when the bridge exploded? So Blondie and Tuco like duck in that sandbag area, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the bridge explodes, and a huge piece of shrapnel like hits one of the sandbags to the right of the scene, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Eli Wallach almost just had his leg taken off.
There was a lot of scenes that I was like, "How did they film that?" Like when a cannonball would hit a horse and the horse would go flying, and I was like, "That happened. That horse fell over." You don't have stunt horses.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
No, there are stunt horses. I don't know if that was one, but there are stunt horses.
It was hella believable if it was a stunt. Like
Tuco's character. What's the actor's name, Cameron?
Eli
You just said
Wallach.
it. So he almost died 3 times on set. One during the train scene. Another time. I'm not sure. That's all I read was that it was during the train scene where he's got
when he's trying to cut the cuffs.
Exactly. He also had an incident on a horse when they were filming one of the new scenes, and he had his hands tied, and the horse got loose, and he rode for a mile with his hands tied.
Oh my god!
And then this one is freaking hysterical. Apparently, one of the like production people, for some reason, had a thing of acid, like a glass of acid, and put it and sit it down beside of his just water thing that he drinks on the horse.
God.
So he just took a big swig of acid. I'm like, holy crap!
That's a hard day of work.
Movie.
You know, like when when you forget, like you've gotten Sprite at McDonald's and you like take a sip and you think it's water. Imagine that, but it's acid. That's a bad day. That's a bad day.
What if it was all one day? It's like, man.
Yeah,
honey, you would not believe my day.
You wouldn't believe the day I had. Why would you have a glass of acid? Like,
yeah, why are you just carrying that around?
And don't put that on the table. Like,
yo, what's
put a lid on that one?
We're forgetting one of the best actors in who's the guy with no legs that they call like Stumpy or whatever. You're half a soldier or whatever.
Many names. Yeah.
Names.
Oh, I wish I wrote him down, dude.
That
I was
poor guy.
rolling.
Oh man, we're not supposed to make fun of people, and they don't. But shoot us, River. So the music in this movie, I want to talk about two of the musical pieces. I forget who orchestrated it. I'll never find it, even though I
do know one fact about the music.
Go ahead.
I don't want to step on Nick's toes if he's got one.
That's all you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So whatever the director's name is, Leone.
Yes, Sergio Leone.
Whoever composed the music did it before the movie. So Leone would let the scenes drag out, which might have impacted why some of these scenes were so long, because he liked the music so much he wanted to like hear it all.
I bet that was the graveyard spinning scene. And he's like, I love this song.
Yeah.
So two songs,
and the finale songs are fantastic.
Two songs in this movie that stuck out to me. Obviously, the intro song, the wah wah wah, like that's in pop culture.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody. You think westerns, you whistle that, and I just never seen the movie.
Yeah, I didn't know that was like, I guess, originated
this movie.
Here with this movie. Yeah.
The other one though, and I don't remember what the song is it's in the graveyard scene where Tuco he gets to Sad Hill and we have that horrible camera shot of it just spinning around him, and I'm like vomiting in my living room.
Yep.
The song they're playing during that is the I forget what the ads are called. I got to pull it up, but the Modelo commercials that they played during sports, the Fighting Spirit. That's the Modelo song. So I had that DiCaprio like snap moment at my television for that.
Snap meme format in every episode.
And I've not seen the movie. Have you seen the movie? Have you seen? Is that Wolf of Wall Street?
That's the Hollywood one.
Once Upon a
Time in Hollywood. The one with the Manson murders at the end. Spoilers. That's I immediately thought of just Modelo because that's the song they use for their Fighting Spirit ads, and it was.
I wonder how much that cost him.
I don't know, but great song. And I had always loved those commercials because of that song, and I'm like, oh, now I get to think of a scene that almost made me puke.
That's ruined.
And then drink till you puke.
So, man, what a
full circle.
The graveyard scene, though. Let's talk about the end of the movie.
Man,
yeah,
because it had a great ending. So we get they blow the bridge up, right?
Mm-hmm.
After the Civil War. Whole combat, they make a point to say that there's going to be a gap in the fighting when both sides get their wounded thing that happened. By the way, if you haven't watched the Ken Burns Civil War docuseries, it was on Netflix a million years ago. I watched it in my apartment whenever that was, 2017 or 18. Really long. It's like 19-20 hours worth of documentary.
Oh, wow.
And it really paints the horrors of the Civil War in a really vivid picture. I was thinking about it a lot during the Civil War scenes. So I never finished it because it's so damn long, but the Ken Burns Civil War documentaries, all Ken Burns documentaries are worth your time, but that's one of the ones that I've seen that I really enjoyed. But they make a point to say that they pause in the combat to get their wounded, totally a thing that happened. So they start grabbing wounded, And Clint Eastwood, or Blondie rather, and Tuco grab a gurney and put some explosives on it and then just run into the middle of a war zone. And at one point they like half-ass pick up a wounded guy and then are like, nah.
Just to like, to placate the other people, be like, yeah, we're helping. All right, drop it, let's go.
They're like, this guy just died just in this second. And then they go and spend 20 years blowing
Nothing we can do.
As if there wasn't a bunch of explosives on the gurney that were very visible.
They're like, oh yeah, we brought
like
this. We can't fit this guy.
Yeah.
Our bed of our truck is full here. So they blow up the bridge, and then we see the captain smile because it's all he wanted was the bridge blown up, and you can't court-martial non-combatants, I guess. So they get away with it. And then we have this whole conflict because Sad Hill's on the other side, on the Confederate side. So they cross, and they get to this church where we have a moment which you alluded to earlier, Carl. We have a moment with Blondie where they go to this church, which has a dying Confederate soldier in it. And Clint Eastwood like goes and sees it. It's like a gut shot, which is you're shot. Well, you're dead. He goes to the young guy and gives him a puff of his cigar, but then just eventually leaves it to him, I guess, puts his coat over him, and then takes a poncho. And that's when we get the poncho. We get the look, which I expected to happen far earlier in the movie. And
I thought we'd be introduced to him like that. And I was like, I guess this... I
know.
I don't... I didn't recognize the poncho as a significant thing.
I
guess I've never seen...
The poster
anything
shot
else outside
of him with the cigar in his mouth. He's got the poncho. Like it's the freeze frame from the movie, you know? And I think I could be wrong. I feel like he's got it in the other two.
I think that's what he starts like in that outfit in the other two, and that's where that theory was like, well, this is a prequel because he gets it at the end.
So he really makes this white boy want a poncho. So while Clint Eastwood is messing with this guy though, Tuco steals the soldier's horse and just starts riding towards the graveyard. Which is a graveyard, by the way. The difference between a graveyard and a cemetery is that graveyards are attached to churches. They are a churchyard with graves in it. Another useless fact that I know. So
I'm glad I now know that.
I did not know there was a distinction.
There is a distinction. There isn't
more syllables
effectively
to your sentence. You say cemetery.
Yeah, there isn't effectively one now, but cemeteries exist because graveyards got too big. There was too many dead people. So they moved them off-site of churches, and those became cemeteries. So graveyard when it's attached to a church, cemetery when it's not.
Interesting.
Pretty neat, and completely pointless. So Tuco rides off, and Blondie shoots a cannon at him twice.
Just perfectly lined up.
Perfectly. It just happened to be there, and then happened to also...
He uses a cigar to
light it, which is so badass.
Pretty clutch. Yep.
So cool. And shoots it twice too. So he loads. We see him with like the ramrod, as if he had loaded, packed this cannon in 15 seconds and then fired another. It's hilarious because that takes two people forever. We've
seen how slow he moves in the whole movie. There's no way he packed it quickly.
Oh, I forgot though. When they're setting the TNT, they tell each other their side of the secret, right?
Oh,
so Tuco tells him that it's Sad Hill, and Clint Eastwood, Blondie gives Tuco the name.
Arch Stanton.
So then Tuco runs off, and we get the Modelo commercial song and this horrible shot that we've been talking about where Tuco's like running in a circle and there's just a tracking shot like chasing him, but the background's spinning so fast and they do it for so long it's pretty nauseating. And we're in that graveyard bewildered with Tuco for what, 2 minutes? It's like
a long time.
It's that whole orchestral piece, which I'm fine with because I'm going, it's the beer song in my living room. But it was a little long, man. And that spinning shot was just brutal for me.
Yeah. It had to be an existing cemetery or graveyard too, right?
I don't know because there were so many like surface buried people. I guess. Nick, did you have a fact about it?
I do have a fact.
Ooh.
That they built that graveyard for the movie.
Yeah.
And then after the fact, because the movie was such a success, they like in real life built a like fake graveyard, I guess, or like built part of that Maybe the circle part. They built part of it in real life as like a monument to the movie, which was pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. I hope it's the bricks part because that's where they have that gunfight. But to get to the gunfight, Tuco finds the grave, right? And while Clint Eastwood is just being really slow to get there, and starts digging up, what was the Arch something?
Arch Stanton.
Arch Stanton. He starts digging up Arch Stanton's grave. And then
gets his bones.
Clint Eastwood shows up and goes, "You'll be a lot faster with this," and throws a shovel at him. And then Tuco starts digging. But then another shovel comes in, and that's when Angel Eyes finally returns. And he's got his gun, and he aims it at Clint Eastwood. Well, he tells him it'd be a lot faster if two of you working.
Yeah. Two dig a lot quicker than one.
Yeah. And Clint Eastwood's just standing there like, "I'm not doing it." And Angel
Eyes
is
like match by snapping.
Yeah. Well,
like that was, I didn't know that was even possible. I was like, how Callistar's fingers could do that?
I miss
crazy.
I don't miss Strike Anywhere matches because I've never had them because they don't really make them anymore because they're such a risk to ship. But to have Strike Anywhere matches.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, they don't really make Strike Anywhere matches anymore. That's why you can't do that these days. Is because the fuel is on the spark is on the like match striker pad. Before those two chemicals were just on the tip, and I think you can still find them in places, but you can't buy them on Amazon. That's for sure.
Yeah, that would. Could you imagine?
So he snaps a lighter, or he snaps a match and lights a cigar, and Angel Eyes is like, "Do you want to get shot right now?" And he's like, "You can't kill me because the gold's not here." And he kicks the casket open, which is exposed enough at this point, and there's just a skeleton in it. And then Tuco's pissed because he told him the wrong thing and blah, blah, blah. God. And then Blondie goes like, "Why don't we settle this or figure it out or whatever, and I'll write the name on this brick." So he scribbles the right name on this brick, throws the brick in the middle of this circular brick something that's here for some reason. And the three men we get a standoff, and it's super rad.
And anxiety inducing.
Yeah, because we get
holy crap.
It's a lot of like
what a great scene,
shots
though.
of faces, like with eyes darting, you know?
Yeah.
Not quite
the
grabbed
longer
guns.
It progresses, the more like it cuts between them faster and faster, and it zooms in more and more to show like the anticipation building, which was really well done.
My favorite
Chef's
shot.
Kiss. And that song is
yeah.
Oh, sorry, Nick, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say my favorite shot was Angel Eyes reaches down for his gun.
Oh, yeah.
And you see his hand get slowly closer, and then it cuts to Blondie's eyes, and he just gives him kind of a "don't do that," and you see his hand back away.
Yeah, he really just shifts his eyes over, and he's like, "Nope, not yet." Yeah. It kind of reminded me of Pulp Fiction when Butch was like, "Yeah, you want that revolver, don't you?"
Yeah.
Which Tarantino is so obviously influenced by this movie.
So many things have to be, right?
This is his favorite movie of all time.
With
no
him
way.
Sitting down at the table.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep.
That's good.
You find that in doing the research, I'm sure.
No, I just know Quentin.
Oh, you just knew?
Good friend of mine.
Yeah, you and Q go back.
Yeah. We're on a first name basis. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see Django
kind of
after seeing this. I want to see. We've got two more recent westerns. We got.
Oh, I bet you that's super inspired by this.
But we're going to Tombstone next, and well, not next, but Tombstone's in there. That's
What's
from
the other
92.
western?
Do what?
What was the other western? You said we had two more.
Tombstone and Django.
Oh, Django. Oh, right, right.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for Django after this. So, but the standoff ends in a pretty hilarious and one of those again Blondie's 5 steps ahead moments. What was it? Who pulled first? Did Angel Eyes pull first and then Blondie?
I think Angel Eyes.
I'm not sure.
And that's a theme in all the movies. Like no matter what happens, Clint Eastwood's got the fastest draw.
Yeah.
Is essentially how it goes. And he's really good at fanning and he never misses and it's amazing. So he I think Angel Eyes pulls first, but Blondie nails him. And then we cut to Tuco and he's just like click, 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 like super fast.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. And then he's pissed off and like throws his gun on the ground and
there's a little string attached to his gun.
Yeah, that's
just so
tied around
funny.
His neck, and he does that for some reason.
Is that really better than a pistol belt, like, or a holster? Like, seems like it'd dangle a lot and be kind of haphazard, but
Blondie like double taps Angel Eyes and then shoots his gun and then shoots his hat. He's just like shooting him as many times as possible.
So
like shoots his leg or something into because he falls into a grave.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he shoots him more in the grave.
Yeah.
So cool and so unnecessary.
Yeah.
But then Tuco's real pissed off because he's like, "When'd you take the bullets out of my gun?" And he tells him
last night.
Yeah, it's so awesome when they were sleeping after the whole bridge situation, I guess, because they fall asleep in that sandbag area after they all almost die in real life from shrapnel flying over their heads. Yeah, he makes Tuco dig because it's the unmarked grave next to the grave that they were at earlier. Which man, he's just so smooth in these movies. It's the best.
Yeah, he has all the right information and he plays it perfectly. Like, cause he knows that whole time in that whole standoff, he just has to watch for Angel Eyes.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to worry about Tuco. And then Angel Eyes is over there looking back and forth frantically. He's like, I just know I have to keep my eyes on him. And he just sets himself up for success.
It's just really cool.
It's nice to be able to play your hand that perfectly.
And this happens to a lesser degree in I think it's in Fistful of Dollars, where he gets like actually captured and actually beat up really bad. But I guess that happens.
No spoilers.
I guess that happens with the desert scene. But it's like, even when Clint Eastwood is really not in control, he's still got an air of confidence that he's gonna pull it out, and he always does. And it's just a blessing to watch. It's so cool. I love watching him, man. It's so cool. But he the money's in the grave. It's in bags. 4 bags. 4 for me, 4 for you.
Like old times. Hey, Tuco.
Yep. But he makes Tuco climb on the rickety cross wooden grave marker and put a rope around his neck and rides away.
Full circle.
I had a note that was like, everyone's really laissez-faire about accepting their fate.
And really
like,
good.
Every time they get picked up by like an enemy like camp or whatever, they're just like, all right, we're here now. Like, all right. They just kind of take everything in stride and roll with it like a tumbleweed. You know, I guess that's just the Western mentality. But
also really good at tying
nooses. Would you rather in that situation be like, all right, just shoot me? I don't want to get hung to death. I'd rather just get shot and it be over. You know?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know what it's from, but James Franco's in a movie where he's got a noose around his neck. He's like looking at the guy beside him. He's like,
The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Oh, yeah.
That's a Coen Brothers movie. That's actually really good.
I bet you I remember seeing that. I bet you that's probably inspired by these movies as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, oh, it's your first time getting hung by a noose.
Yeah.
First time.
They're so used to it.
We get the most tension of any noose scene in this one, though, because he's like slipping off this wooden cross thing that's just tied together with the noose around his neck. And Blondie literally
I felt real bad for Tuco there. I was like, I can't believe. I thought they were buddies again. Like, I can't believe he's going to put him there. But
it was nice, though, that Blondie gets the last laugh.
Yeah.
And then he of course shoots him down and then rides off into the sunset.
Tuco probably would have betrayed him if he could have.
100%. He would have again. He's got to really send that message and get a good head start as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they split the money, $100,000 each, and we get he literally rides off into the sunset, and it's awesome. It's a good movie.
Well, no, he rides off into the sunset after turning around and shooting the noose.
Right. Yeah. He gets him down.
Maybe we said that. Maybe we didn't.
I did. I think I mentioned it, but it's worth mentioning that he does not leave Tuco forever standing on top of a grave marker with a noose around his neck.
He does leave him stranded in the desert with his hands tied behind his back and having to carry like 40 pounds of gold.
Well,
but
that's
I'm
a
sure
problem.
Tuco he'll figure it out.
He'll figure it out.
Yeah.
He's figured it out before. He walks 70 miles in the desert to get
70 miles.
70 miles. If you save your breath, like breathing,
I think a man like you can make it.
Die quicker.
Yeah. Does that conserve water somehow when you're in the baking sand?
Exhaling all those water particles, you dummy.
Yeah. I did have a note about Tuco that cracked me up. Like, he kept having this, like, the most half-assed Hail Mary. Like, I think at one point he did it and he was like, and just like he's already got around or something.
He does it like to his ears. He's like,
yeah, he's like, he just trying. It's like the most haphazard and just like kind of throws his hand around. Just it's all on the wrist.
And it gets like less like flamboyantly wrong, but more just like quick, like as he goes along.
It's like it just falls apart at the end.
That was such a good bit of comedy. I
so good.
So, question for you guys: who was your favorite character?
Oh, I mean, it's Blondie,
out of these
right?
3 guys.
It's Blondie, right?
I expected to
It's
like
100%
Blondie the
Blondie.
most. I liked Angel Eyes, I think.
Okay.
Whoa!
If you
I
liked
thought you might say
Angel Eyes
the
Tuco.
most. I liked his look the most. I think he looked like the most iconic villain, and I think I wanted that original. I think I liked Blondie at the end the most, like when he became that like iconic, the look of him. But when Angel Eyes, when you meet him and he's in that doorway, and it's that deep focus shot of you see the guy on the table and he's just like silhouetted in the door frame. I was like, that's a great entrance, and I was like, I'm immediately drawn to that character. But I also like the Black Hat villains.
Yeah.
Case in point.
You should really, if you liked that character, you should really watch for a few dollars more.
I wanted to do it this week, but I thought that'd be too many, like 9 hours of movies. So I was like, I don't want to confuse myself here.
We gotta watch another one, huh? No, he's very, very good, and for a few dollars more, he plays quite a different character. More of their partnership's more of like 2 mercenaries come together kind of deal, to accomplish a similar goal. But yeah, it's man, the other 2 movies are super good. They're super good. I feel like I almost like them more than this one, which is probably incorrect, but maybe I just have rose-colored glasses because they're some of my first Westerns, and I really loved them. So, let's should we go to star ratings, or do we have any final points?
Well, I did have so everybody in this movie has a nickname. We have Angel Eyes, Blondie, and I guess Tuco is the rat. I don't really. He had a couple. It seemed like.
Yeah.
So I was gonna question, like, what would y'all's nickname, your Western cowboy nickname be?
Well, what's yours first? Start us off though.
I think I probably Squinty.
Squinty, because you're
Squinty.
yeah.
Because I laugh or like my eyes just squint, but I don't really have any.
Listen, I tried to put Carl in thumbnails.
Yeah.
I tried to put Carl in thumbnails for this show, and I can just never capture anything because every time you smile, you squint the hardest.
Well, but
I know,
the
it's
squint. It's endearing. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, or Dimples. Maybe they call me Dimples or something.
I think for me,
Dimples.
I'm so blind and glasses weren't that good. I'd probably be Blind Kim or Shaky Hands. Because I have very unsteady hands. So I feel like Shaky Hands Cam. Like I'd be a terrible shot.
Yeah.
I'd be like the worthless outlaw in the group. Old Shaky Hands over there. I think that'd be me.
I like that one.
Nick, what about you? You gotta have one. Slick
I'm
Nick
thinking-
totally applies, by the way. That'd be a good cowboy name.
So Slick's the obvious one.
Yeah.
Also, just the Klutz.
The Klutz.
Klutz.
'Cause,
Shaky Klutz and Dimples. I kind of like it. That's pretty good.
That's the new show, everybody. Shaky Klutz and Dimples. Oh my God. We gotta go rob something now.
Oh, God.
We're going. Let's go to the bank
again. Those bastards!
Oh my God.
Just going town for town with our bounty scam. Oh man,
That's good.
that's hilarious.
Oh man. So that's
Anybody else
a
have
good
any
one.
points? I'm sure I've got some others, but
That's what's up. That was a
the
good.
only other thing I had was that the landscape is kind of a character in this movie, and it's kind of a storytelling device. There's so many wide shots and kind of like, because I've taken a couple art history classes, and like the Manifest Destiny of like the westward movement was like a huge art movement, and like it's like these grandiose panoramic shots. The colors were very like reminiscent of this movie, where I was like, this looks just like an old painting I've seen in like an art class. So, the landscape is a huge. I don't know if it's a character, like a storytelling device, but it's definitely like a big component of the way they told the story, because they really put you in these huge, like scenes.
I gotta say, I'm no cowboy, but I'm other than the stupid hat for my quarter life crisis. But I love Western landscapes, man. Like I've got two. I've only got one framed, and that reminds me, I have a whole nother one I need to mount and frame. I've got two Mark Maggiore, who's a French American painter that does Western scenes in cowboy art, and it's amazing. I've got a piece in my living room.
The colors are so rich and soupy,
and it's just
like they're just.
We don't get skies like that here, and it's just I love looking at that. I've got a painting that's a couple cowboys in front of a purple and orange sunsetting sky, and it's just my favorite thing in the world. Like I just love looking at it, and I want a million Maggiore paintings.
Man, there's that one scene when Angel Eyes is mounting up with his posse, and they're all on the horses, and it's kind of a low shot, and the shadows are casting down in the sand. And I was like, that's a painting right there. There was a lot of really great stylistic shots. There's one where when not to get derail everything, but when Angel Eyes was like dying in the desert and Tuco throws a bottle at him and it rolls and hits him in the head.
Hits him in the head. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Like,
what
how did they do that
Blondie's
one
croaking in the
take?
desert.
It's like, yeah, oh yeah, sorry. And it just like it rolled and hit him in the head, and I was like, that was a perfect one shot. Like, how did they nail that? There was no like tracks put in there. It was all like one.
Well,
take.
not only that, because
stood
yeah,
out to me too.
the tracks to your point, because it's like, man, if they mess that up, it's like, all right, move everything to the
Let's
right
go.
15
Yeah.
feet. Like,
Just been all day out there.
I don't know if it was intentional, but the way that scene was filmed, at least for me, I thought that was a giant hill. And even when they were coming over the top, it felt like they were super far away. And then he starts to roll, and he's all of a sudden just all up in the camera. Like it was a really good shot.
the perspective there was really cool.
Yeah.
A lot of good shots like that.
Yeah.
Is it really? I mean, I ripped on the Foley and the mouths not matching, but who cares? It's such a good, just a pretty movie to look at.
I'm surprised the audio sync stuff didn't bother me more than it did.
Yeah,
Or more than it didn't.
I mean,
Yeah, it really became background noise kind
Yeah,
of.
and I've watched enough like subtitled shows and stuff, not in English to not care. But it is a little jarring when the language doesn't quite match. But, yeah, it's just so good. Let's move to ratings though. Now that we've assigned our cowboy names, who wants to go first? Nick?
I kind of want to hear Nick's,
Yeah,
but
I
never.
definitely
I'm
want to
always
hear
gonna
it because
go
this is
first.
first question.
I'll go
Nick, go ahead.
Those fun reviews.
Yeah. So as my first Western, I had zero expectations. What stood out to me the most though through this movie was, even though I had never seen a Western, I've seen references to Western in like modern day stuff. So it's like in the stuff like Back to the Future 3 or in Westworld.
Yeah.
Like
Oh yeah.
it was really fun to tie this movie to what I do know about Westerns. And I think that speaks to its impact on the genre and on movies in general. I didn't have a lot of complaints. My only gripe was not necessarily that it was 3 hours long, but I was very aware of how long it was.
Yeah.
Because of how, like I was saying earlier, like it feels like every 30 minutes you're in a different scene, in a different location, the different story. And I think at times I kind of forgot about the gold in the cemetery and like what they were all working towards. I loved Blondie. Blondie was definitely my favorite character. I liked that he really was the good out of the three of them.
Right.
I think the other two, because when I start thinking about movies and like doing my like final thoughts, I get really like bigger picture, and maybe that's not always the case, but I feel like he really was the good out of the three. The other two were very greedy in their approach and how they did things, but he broke the law, but he was the way he was based on just needing to survive in that kind of society. But he was a good person at the end of the day. I liked it a lot. I want to watch more Westerns now.
Yes.
Definitely the other two in this series,
for sure.
but also some of the American ones. For star rating, I'm going to go 4 out of 5.
Nice. Yeah, it's interesting to me that in the context of at least how the West is portrayed in movies, that how good usually isn't like the law. You know what I mean? Like it's not the sheriff's good. The good tends to lie somewhere in between. The sheriff's good, which can be heavy-handed and overcorrective because of how wild and bad things are, and then the bad of the outlaws. Like the good, the moral good is somewhere in the middle, and that's just I like that. You know what I mean? It lets you be a little fluid and naughty while still, you're still being the good. So that's I like how that comes across in these movies. Carl,
the only one who's like truly bad seems like Angel Eyes, because he's killing in cold blood.
Yeah.
He's very opportunistic. I don't like. Blondie didn't really kill anyone, I don't think.
Yeah, God, I mean, Angel Eyes puts a pillow over a guy's head and shoots him in the face 5 times. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Like, you know what? I'm paid. I finished the job. And he's like, what? And I was like, jeez, this guy's bedridden. He's not competition for the gold, dude. Like, he's not so crazy.
And after one headshot, you're good.
When that happened, yeah, I was like, you're wasting a lot of ammo here. And I did not expect that from this old movie at all. I was like, all right, we're buckle up. Here we go. My review time?
Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
All right. So, yeah, this is, I'd seen some Westerns, haven't seen the Western, so this is the Western.
Right.
I really didn't expect it to take as many detours as it did. We've already talked about, I guess I'm not going to repeat myself too much here, but I mean, there were some scenes that were like, it almost felt like a long format music video. Like when he's in that, like basically the entire last scene was almost like some concept album where they just had like it's like a story behind the music they were making, which I kind of love. But I mean, I love the title sequence. I love this movie actually sent me on like kind of a rabbit hole because I was like, okay, now I gotta go watch some Cowboy Bebop because they directly kind of not parody but pay homage to the opening credits. If you haven't seen Cowboy Bebop, you got it. It's great.
The anime,
had to go watch,
not the Netflix show.
The cartoon.
Watch the Netflix show.
It's a whole different can of worms there. Had to go rewatch Community's Cowboy episode. Had to go play a lot of Red Dead, and I was immediately mauled by a panther. It's like you can't tame the West. Yeah, I was like, in this movie, the soundtrack is so iconic. That final scene, like, is riffed on in so many movies and other pop culture things. So I love. I make memes, so anytime I see like the origin or an iconic scene that's referenced, I'm like, yes, it's cool to have like be exposed to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the thing keeping me from a higher score was what Nick kind of talked about with how you feel the length of this movie,
yep.
And it's less like for Pulp Fiction, you're kind of there's never a dull moment. So I think I'm going to give it a 4.5.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, we talked about how, we all mentioned at different points how we feel that length. It felt like a 3-hour movie. Now,
I kind of wish we had seen the 2-hour to kind of compare it against.
Yeah, again, like I mentioned earlier, the other 2 movies I believe are shorter. They felt much shorter. Now, they're still long.
I was going to watch all 3, and I was like, okay, well, these other 2 are a lot more digestible.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
And because of that, and I was sick when I first started watching, so I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it through all 3. Right. So I was like kind of delirious in the first watch. Just I had to do it a couple more times.
I'm more forgiving of older movies, I think, when they're long. I'm more forgiving of this being long than like, the only movie I haven't really liked on this list was Gangs of New York, and that movie I felt every minute of that 2 hours and 36 or whatever it was. You know what I mean? But this felt long differently. It felt long. I don't know. It felt long-winded, not long, I guess. Like there were shots that drug on for a long stinking time, but that's been the case for really all of these old movies. And I feel like I'm just an old man that likes old movies. I just do. Like all of my favorite Pulp Fiction aside, all my favorite movies in this list that we've watched so far, of the 7 or 8 that we've done, have been old. Casablanca, this movie, and God bless Citizen Kane. I loved those movies, and they're some of the oldest movies in the bucket. There's other than Gone with the Wind.
Oh boy.
Which hopefully is good because that's 4 hours, like we've mentioned a million times, because we're terrified of it. As far as enjoyment goes, I alluded to this in the beginning of the episode. There's something about the other 2 that I think I don't know. I think I like them a little more, which feels weird to me. And I felt that, by the way, the whole time through the movie. The whole time through the movie, I was like, man, I think I liked the other 2 a little more than this. And maybe it was the length. Maybe this one was just a little tiring because it was so long. Maybe if we had watched the slightly shorter cut, I wouldn't feel that way. But I don't know. The ending, particularly of For a Few Dollars More, I preferred over this ending. The ending of For a Fistful of Dollars, I do not prefer of this movie, but it's very good. So as far as ending goes, this one's right in the middle for me. I don't know. My dad really likes these movies and Westerns. A lot of these movies. This is one of the movies. My dad actually, I have a couple more notes in my phone of more Western movies that my dad has given me to watch. And some of them were John Wayne ones that I just hadn't heard before. So maybe we throw some of those in next year. As my dad's a Western fan. A lot of the movies on this list are not a lot, but a couple are movies that either I had remembered watching on TV with my dad, or that my dad had mentioned. Goodfellas, Godfather, this movie, and a couple of the Muppets movie.
Let's get your dad on the podcast.
I'd love to have. I don't think he ever would, but man, having him on for like The Godfather or Goodfellas or something would be hilarious, because he's seen the movies a million times and really likes them. If we watched a Rocky movie, he likes those movies as well. But who doesn't, right? I think for
Never seen them.
I've seen all of them, but they all blur together because I watched them all like on a TV marathon, you know. They all blur together for me in the same way that the first couple of times I watched Lord of the Rings, I watched them back to back to back, and I couldn't differentiate them. But I think for star rating, I think I'm also gonna go 4. I really, really enjoyed it, and I don't know. I don't know why, but 4.5 just feels like too much. Maybe that's sacrilege, but I think what's keeping me from 4.5 is that I liked parts of the other two movies a little more than I liked this one. So, and that does again feel weird to say, being that this is the quintessential both Western and spaghetti Western movie, but I'm gonna stick to it. I think I like parts of the other two movies a little bit more than this one. So, but 4, definitely one of my favorite movies we watched so far. Definitely one of my favorite movies we've watched so far. Yeah. I really enjoy it. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Nick. I was
wondering, because I was like, this is a real.
When I pressed play and saw 3 hours, I was like, oh my God, Nick's going to watch out of sync audio for 3 hours. He's going to not make it.
Yeah, what, like 10 p.m. you started? And I was like,
I started at 11 p.m.
Yeah, I started at
2 hours after that one.
I started at 9, and I was like, what a mistake. You started at 11.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to watch these on Saturdays.
Yeah. I'll say I liked this one more the second time I watched it too, because I kind of had an idea going into it what it was.
He watches all these movies a million times.
Oh my God, dude. That's 9 hours.
I had to re-rent it because my time went up, and I was like, I wanted to get one more screenshot of Tuco's face.
For the eggs.
I wanted to make a meme of the duel, and I just had it as a 2 duel, and I was like, I need that facial expression. Yeah. So I was like, it's worth $4.
That facial expression definitely didn't exist on the internet.
No, there's no way.
Well, my rule is if I make a meme, I cut it myself. So I have to watch it. I have to screenshot it. I have to pick the scene.
They're hard to find too. I mean, one of the stupid. I don't even know if we released it. One of the stupid Coach Carter memes I found. I had to use a garbage clip on YouTube, and it just didn't come out right. Anyway, should we bucket?
Let's bucket.
I think we should.
Let's do the bucket. Let's decide a next movie because. Oh boy, Danielle's not here to protest, so we'll see.
Did we address that?
Did we what?
Address where she is?
We addressed it at the end of the last episode. She's at Disney.
Okay.
Our Mickey Mouse apparently wasn't good enough, so she had to fly 6 hours across the country to see the same mouse in a different place. I don't understand it, but whatever. I'm gonna give this a good mix up. I'm so scared. But I have a movie, and it's backwards. Here we go, everybody. Our next movie is, according to the ticket, we're going back to back. And I'm spilling bullets, and we're going to watch Django Unchained is the next movie. So we're going back to back with Westerns.
That is perfect.
And I'm pretty not mad about it. I think
get to wear my hat again.
Danielle has seen Django.
I'm going to have to get a hat next week.
Nick, had you seen Django?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Carl and Danielle have seen it.
I have seen
Nick
it.
Nick and I have not. So we're going be my second Tarantino. I'm pretty excited. Apparently, from what I've heard, there'll be a lot more murder in this one. Hey, I'm hyped though. I'm ready. I want to see another Western. I kind of wish it was Tombstone, but hey.
That would have been perfect. Yeah, we could have gone like chronological order.
I also know how Tombstone ends, which is a huge bummer. I don't know anything about this, but Tombstone, famous ending. I'm very excited to get to that movie, but I'm also very excited to watch Django Unchained. So that's it for this week. If you want to follow along with us, watch some Django with us, and we'll catch you in the next one.